With the release of the War of the Thorns pre-patch event for the upcoming Battle for Azeroth expansion, Blizzard has pulled a commonly used tactic of theirs that, like usual, has gotten the community divided and angry at itself. This is, of course, timegating. The War of the Thorns is currently impossible to complete as the second half of the questline will not be available to players until next week on July 31st. A lot of players are unhappy with this timegating, and it spawned a new wave of people demanding an answer for why they're not allowed to simply finish the questline right now. Well, there's actually a reason for this time gating, and it isn't because Blizzard wants to make anyone angry or even because they want to extend the wait and keep hype alive by making people wait around for a week. It's because of a little thing called player retention, a term you may not have heard before but is very important to World of Warcraft and to Blizzard. If you ask most people what they think player retention is, they'll probably tell you it's people who stay subscribed to the game, and while that answer isn't wrong, it's not quite the term's full meaning. Player retention is the amount of times that players are logging into the game every day, every week, and every month. Not necessarily just people staying subscribed, but also actively logging into the game. But let me explain. See, Blizzard doesn't gain anything directly from having you log in every day. You're not paying to play per day, you pay for an entire 30 or 60 day span, and then you have unlimited access to the game for that period. So from that standpoint, Blizzard has no financial incentive to want you to log on every day. They don't gain anything directly from it. But what they do gain from it is safety with their investors. See, Blizzard is a large company, and this means that they have to be able to come up with at least a mostly safe prediction for what their subscription numbers will look like throughout a period of changing months. If Blizzard shows that lots of players are only logging in once every couple of weeks, it makes it very hard to be able to count on those players staying subscribed for very long, as it looks like they're losing interest in the game and can't be counted on to renew subscriptions. However, if you have a majority of players who are logging on every week or every day, then it looks like players are still very active in the game, and you can more safely assure a group of investors that everything is okay. Player retention's exact importance varies based on a game's business model. A free-to-play game that doesn't charge subscriptions but does run advertisements on its pages would obviously want high retention to get players coming back and watching ads. A game like World of Warcraft is subscription-based and has no direct benefit from its players logging on every day, but the company is in the pocket of investors that they need to keep happy. This is just about the number one reason that time gating exists in games, especially in MMOs. Going into Battle for Azeroth, Blizzard clearly wants the last few weeks of Legion to look very good for player retention. They need a reason to keep players coming back for the next couple of weeks and logging into the game. So, they release a big pre-event quest chain but time gate it to take 2 weeks. So now they got you resubbing for the event, logging onto it for the first week of quests, and then coming back next week. The problem that I have with time gating is that it's a very artificial and ham-fisted way to try and get players to come back to the game. That's not even just my opinion. The use of time gating is actually very frowned upon within the MMO world, and a lot of newer developers are trying to shy away from using it, even as other newer developers are fully embracing it and they are basically using it as a crutch. Player garrisons have got to be one of the most poorly received pieces of content ever released in the game, and yet they were considered a huge success by Blizzard on an internal level within the company because of what it did to player retention. Garrisons had us logging in once, twice, even 3 times a day to check our missions. Even when people were overwhelmingly critical towards garrisons, they did their job well enough that Blizzard is pretty much just keeping the whole garrison-style gameplay thing forever, it seems. We had class halls in Legion, and now we're getting a similar thing in Battle for Azeroth, and I fucking hate that, man. I hated garrisons so goddamn much. I hated class halls so goddamn much. These things force you to log in every day, and in Legion especially, you had to do them. You didn't have a choice with class halls because they were tied directly to your character progression. Blizzard has always had daily chores to get you to log on, and they've always done time-gated things like reputation and other things like that, but correct me if I am wrong, but I think Legion was truly the first time where you were absolutely beholden to getting on and doing your class hall stuff. In the past, you were never really required to do your daily dungeon run for badges like in Wrath of the Lich King or Cataclysm. You could simply choose to only raid and not rely on vendor gear. I can't think of a single reputation faction outside maybe Vanilla that was completely mandatory for progression of your character. It's only in Legion that you had to do class halls or else you couldn't unlock your artifact weapon fully. There was no alternative. You couldn't really just not do it. Obviously, as time went on, they did relax the class hall requirements and they made catch-up mechanics available, but for the beginning of the expansion, you were forced to log in every single day and do your class hall busywork, and that fucking sucked. The problem with player retention tactics is that it's very easy to get lazy with them and force players to revisit the game daily in order to pursue something that is locked behind an artificial time gate. Instead of time gating things to make me log on every day, why doesn't the game try focusing more on being fun and engaging so that I want to log on every day just to play it, rather than logging on out of pure duty? Because yeah, that makes me feel really good and really makes me want to keep playing, you know, feeling like I'm forced to log on every day for my garrison overlord. Yes, it's always been like this. MMOs timegate stuff. It's just how things are. But I see a lot of people responding to those who are unhappy with time gating by saying things that amount to basically, that's how it's always been, so you're not allowed to complain about it now, it's how MMO games are. And I have never, and will never, accept that as a valid argument against timegate criticism. Time gating is just kind of inherently unfun, because it's not even gameplay, it's just forced waiting. Just because we've been addled by it for years doesn't mean any of us have to accept it, and it doesn't mean we can't complain about it. Complaining is, believe it or not, the method we have for informing Blizzard that we don't like something. The core problem at the very end of the day is that WoD created and Legion reinforced a very frustrating situation with time gating content. We are chained to our stupid little mission boards, and it's causing player retention to shoot through the roof. So even though we fucking hate it, Blizzard can't get enough of it. From the looks of things, time gating may only get worse. I don't know what the class hall mission stuff looks like in Battle for Azeroth, but I've heard it's very similar to class halls and that there will be important player progression locked behind it. Time gating is a cheap trick, and it is a bandage to a greater problem. If Blizzard put more time into trying to make a game that had its own internal replay value, then maybe they wouldn't have to rely on artificially locking players out of content until they log on a week later. I hate time gating, and it's okay if you do too. No one is allowed to tell us that we're wrong to hate this just because it's an MMO or it's always been like this. Reject those notions entirely because they're bullshit. We've had Nazis around for a while, but it doesn't mean we just shrug and say, oh, well, there's always been Nazis, so what can you do? And yes, I just unironically compared World of Warcraft to Nazis. Okay, bye.